If you look at modern historical dramas or read articles about the ancient world, you will eventually encounter a shocking claim that our ancestors routinely married and had children at the age of 12. The logic seems straightforward. Because average life expectancy in the past was supposedly around 30 years, we assume that humans had to compress their entire lives, starting families in what we would consider childhood just to keep the species from going extinct. It is a deeply unsettling idea. But biologically, it is almost entirely a myth. Ancient humans did not have babies at 12. In fact, for most of human history, having a child at that age was physically impossible, evolutionarily disastrous, and socially non-existent. So, why do we believe this? What was the actual age of ancient motherhood? And how did modern life completely rewire our reproductive clocks? To understand why 12-year-old mothers were not the norm, we have to look at the biology of puberty. Today, girls in developed countries reach menarche, their first period, at an average age of 12. We view this as the natural biological baseline of human development. But historically, early puberty is a massive anomaly. Puberty is regulated by a hormone called leptin, which is produced by fat cells. Think of leptin as a biological alarm clock. Once your body accumulates a certain threshold of fat, the clock rings, and the reproductive system turns on. But ancient humans lived in a raw, physically demanding world. Our ancestors were constantly on the move, walking miles a day and eating a lean diet of wild plants, seeds, and game. Because they had very low body fat and high energy demands, their biological alarm clocks rang much later. Anthropological studies of pre-industrial societies and modern hunter-gatherers show that the average age of menarche was actually between 16 and 18 years old. And even after a girl reached her first period, she wasn't immediately fertile. During the first year or two after menarche, a young woman's cycles are typically irregular and do not release an egg, a natural biological buffer known as adolescent sterility. This means that even if an ancient teenager wanted to get pregnant, her body physically wouldn't let her. In hunter-gatherer societies, the average age for a woman's first child is actually between 19 and 22. Ancient mothers were fully grown young adults, not children. But there is an even more brutal evolutionary reason why we didn't have babies at 12. The obstetric dilemma. As we established earlier, human babies are born with exceptionally large heads because of our massive brains, while the female pelvis is constrained by our need to walk upright on two legs. Giving birth is already a dangerous, high-stakes event, but a 12-year-old girl is still growing. Her pelvis has not reached its mature adult size. Attempting to pass a large baby through an underdeveloped pelvis routinely led to obstructed labor, which, in a world with no modern surgery or sterile medicine, was fatal for both the mother and the child. Evolutionary pressure ruthlessly selected against very early pregnancy. It was a biological dead end that wiped out the genes of any population that tried it. So, where did this myth of the 12-year-old mother actually come from? It comes from a misunderstanding of ancient laws and political marriages. In ancient Rome and medieval Europe, the legal minimum age of consent for marriage was indeed 12. But these were almost exclusively political contracts arranged by wealthy noble families to secure land, alliances, and inheritance. A 12-year-old princess might be formally betrothed to a prince, but she remained in her parents' care, and the marriage was rarely consummated until she was biologically mature in her late teens. It was legal paperwork, not a nursery. For the vast majority of ordinary peasants and hunter-gatherers, marriage and childbirth happened in their 20s. Our modern world has done something strange. Our high-calorie diets, processed sugars, and sedentary lifestyles have flooded our bodies with fat cells, triggering early puberty at ages our ancestors would have found shocking. At the same time, we have extended our social childhood, asking teenagers to spend their 20s focusing on education and careers. We have separated biological maturity from social maturity. Our ancestors did the exact opposite. They matured slowly, allowing their bodies to fully grow, strengthen, and prepare before taking on the immense physical challenge of motherhood. Ancient humans didn't have kids at 12 because they understood at a deep biological level that keeping the next generation alive required first giving the mothers time to grow.